Talking Heads and And She Was. The first video made for the band Talking Heads was directed by Tony Basil for the song Cross-Eyed and Painless. None of the band appeared. Since then, the band's David Byrne has been involved in the making of all of their videos, storyboarding And She Was for director Jim Blashfield, co-directing or directing the rest. The style of Talking Heads videos draws pretty much on their live performances. And as David Bowie has said, David Byrne is one of the complete artists of rock video.
For me, it's something that exists on its own right, as a short film, and it's also something that you can stand up to repeated viewings, which most short films aren't required to do, but videos are kind of replayed a lot, so they kind of have to be multi-leveled in a way. I wanted the symbolism of burning down the house, of the phrase burning down the house. The symbolism of the title, to me, and I guess in whatever Jungian psychology, meant kind of symbolized rebirth and destroying oneself, or destroying some sort of transitory personality and shedding that shell and coming out with a new one. And so, on one level, the video is about that. It's about one group of performers, us, being substituted by another. This group of kind of imposters, and I get replaced by a little kid, and the others get replaced by other people. And then, so on one level, that, if you really stretch it, that has some connection with the song title. And as, in a way, as does the use of a lot of projections, projected images, which is thinking of one personality or one image layered on top of another, in the way that you shed one kind of personality and a new one comes out. So I guess that was meant to be the kind of subliminal basis of a lot of that. But like most of them, there's meant to be kind of try to sneak in that serious stuff under a lot of humor.
In Stop Making Sense, did you spend a lot of time organising what was going to happen in terms of the lighting in that film?
That was all worked out more or less in advance when I was putting this show together. And I once again did storyboards for what I imagined happening. And then I worked with a woman named Beverly Emmons, who usually does lighting for the theater and dance in New York. And she was the one who told me, well, to get that effect, here's how you do it. Here's the instrument you use, and here's technically how it can be done. If you focus it like this, you'll get the look you're after. And then that was kind of polished a bit on the road, and then so that by the time it was filmed, it just became a question of readjusting everything slightly so that it got the same effect on film.
What's the story behind the suit?
I was talking to a friend in Japan, and I was saying I feel like I'd like to wear some sort of costume, and he just said, well, remember the old theater adage that on the stage everything should be bigger. So I just drew on a napkin a great big suit. And that seemed perfect. It just seemed like it seemed funny, and it seemed to have some sort of resonance of the clothing kind of taking over one's body. Jonathan thought, and I thought kind of rightly, that if you're looking at something, it can sustain your interest in a long shot, and you keep sustaining your interest, and there's no reason to cut to something else. And in fact, the longer you can stay with it, the more believable it becomes. The more, in a subliminal way, draws you in more and reinforces your feeling that it really is happening. That this isn't something that was created by quick cutting or movie magic or anything else. This really happened. They just stuck a camera in front of it, and so that when that works, it really becomes more engaging. And I think he was right about that. It was the first song I'd written, so it was sort of just an exercise to see if I could write a song and if I could write from another person's point of view. So it was all imaginary. And I wanted it to be kind of the interior monologue of someone rather than describing a violent act. If just describe their state of mind, and that would be enough.
What is your interest in the preaching style, and where does that come from?
Or ignoring whether you believe it or not, or whether you question whether some of the preachers are charlatans or not. If you ignore that, a good preacher or whatever is a good performer. And so I was immediately drawn to this as people who had honed their performance style in front of an audience. And they weren't judged by critics or reviews or anyone else. There wasn't anyone else who was kind of boosting up and saying, you should go and see so-and-so, he's really good. They had to prove how good they were every morning or afternoon or night or whatever in front of the congregation. And they kind of lived, and they'd kind of live and die and eat by the strength of their performances. So I found myself, if I went to see a preacher or went to church service like that, I'd find myself emotionally involved even if I resisted, even if I thought I didn't believe everything he was saying. It was still very emotionally engaging. So I thought here was a performance style that I can definitely learn something from.
The song Road to Nowhere seems rather nihilistic. How did you think you should illustrate that in the video?
In order to, I thought, keep the meaning, what I thought was the meaning of the song, and not trivialize it. You had to kind of throw in you kind of say that this includes everything, and this is all inclusive. We're not talking about one depressed person on the road to nowhere, or one group of people, or one group of musicians. We're talking about everything you can think of. And so we kind of tried to imply that by putting all those things. There was a really funny one that's really brief, the kind of Muybridge Running Man. Towards the end, there's one where the guy who did that did a running man on pieces of white bread, but he made the men out of peanut butter. So he made 30 of them, however many it took to make a loop. And each one was a different slice of bread with a different figure drawn in peanut butter.